first session, I talked about how people have always organized themselves, and most recently, our preferred form of organization is a nation.
Almost all first session, but
Good.
then we lost the sound for some reason.
Okay, there was weirdness. The video talked about how we formed nations, starting with sort of the American Revolution, but it really sort of formed in the French Revolution. And you have to have people who are you share your culture, your history, your religion, your language, whatever it is. If you don't actually share anything, come on in, there's food over there. Don't trip on the worst. Because you're on camera. If you go crashing, we'll all have it forever. Yeah, maybe I can win a prize. That is how we begin to organize ourselves. And even if you don't actually share a history and a culture and, an ethos and a mythos and all the language and the religion, you just make it up. That's what some countries have done. France is particularly insistent upon using the French language and being, nominally Catholic or Protestant, they're not really religious, but they don't want you actually being religious if it's another religion. France, there's a language institute, and if there's a word that works fine and other languages have borrowed it, like computer, not good enough for France. They're going to make up their own French word, so it will be French. They don't borrow words like we do, and there's issues in France because to be in France, they have tons of people immigrating there because they were colonizers. But, they start passing laws, no hijabs. French people don't wear hijabs. If you're in France, you don't wear a hijab, even if you're a Muslim, and that's what you do. So they want to keep it very pure. The problem is, if you've got an in-group, what does that mean you're also going to have? An out-group. What are you doing? Okay. An out-group. And that's where nationalism becomes problematic, is unfortunately, when we draw the lines of our countries, they don't always match up toward the nation that lives there. For instance, the Kurds. You've probably heard of the Kurds. Some of them live in Iraq, some of them live in Turkey, and I'm sure y'all know where it's Syria, other places, but they don't have, a box on a map that they can all live in. They don't have a country, but even though they're a nation, you've got the Cherokee Nation or the Catawba Nation that no longer has land, their area that doesn't belong to anybody else. So they don't always match up, especially in places that were colonized, like Africa and Asia. If you ever wondered why the border lines in Africa are so weird, it's because some people sat around a meeting table in Berlin in 1880 something and drew lines on a map. This is going to be Mali, this is going to be Algiers, this is going to be Libya. And it didn't matter if they'd split a tribe, and it didn't matter if they'd squished two tribes that hated each other together. That wasn't their issue. So that becomes problematic in nationalism. And then last week, we talked about how Christianity became the dominant religion in America. We discovered about 70% of Americans claim some form of Christianity, and that includes the Mormons and the Jehovah's Witnesses that we could argue should or should not be in, but they're in. The other major world religions, for the most part, are less than 1%, maybe 2%. And the fastest growing group as far as religion in America is the nones, N-O-N-E. No religion at all. It's up to almost 30%, and it is growing rapidly. They don't, either there's a small number who would say, I'm an atheist, there's no God, and be very atheistic. Others are like, well, I'm agnostic, there might be a God, there might not, it doesn't matter. And then you have the others who are like, nothing in particular. They've either their families were not that way, or they've left it all behind, or have purposely said, I'm out, I'm not doing this anymore. So today we get to the threat of Christian nationalism. So you should all have your notes. And I want you to create a name and a new logo. What happened? Oh, I hate it when it does. If I just touch it, it goes off the slideshow, and then I have to start over. So threat of Christian nationalism. There we go. I want that to go away. So I want you to create and name a new logo that combines two distinct products that don't have anything to do with each other, like a Nike swoosh and a Starbucks mermaid. So everybody needs to work. You can work together. You need to draw one. Okay, there you go. So create a name and a new logo that combines two distinct products. And then you're going to have to explain what this new product is and what's going on with it. And I promise not to ever touch this again. What'd you do? I can't get it to go back. No.
Just down arrow. That's all you need to do.
No, I know. I didn't know how to do that. Okay. And you can work together if you are feeling particularly non-creative. No creativity at all. Just.
Radio flyer.
What?
Your radio flyer?
Radio flyer.
Yeah. What's it called? Radio? I don't know.
No, it's a wagon.
Oh, I know what it was. I had one. I think that's a root beer.
That's our goal. I mean, what do we?
You just, in a minute, you're gonna explain what product this is for or how this is supposed to help you sell more of whatever it is. We're combining symbols. No, it's more fun if they're not. You can be clever. And you've got plenty of space to draw it or describe it.
If you can't draw, you can describe.
Can't draw it, you can describe it. Charles can draw though, he's gonna do a good job. We're gonna have to separate Doug and Jan. Get partnered. Here's a person by themselves. Get partnered over here. Look at the water bottle on your desk. Use that one. Your shoes. Do they have a logo? There you go. The American Red Cross has a logo. Y'all aren't middle schoolers, so you don't have clothes with logos all over them. Okay, got about a minute, and then I'm gonna let you explain what you were trying to do. Whether you were successful or not.
Okay.
Okay, you can get with Charles and Pat. Or no, you can get. I think a good one would be the Olympics in Audi. More and more circle. But it was on. That's you instead of me.
Oh, that's probably just go over here. Go to the next one. Go to the next one. There you go. Okay, you're
Just
on.
leave it like that.
You're on. You're on.
Yeah, otherwise. Okay. It's okay. Jan and Doug are either gonna be separated or Get a, get a, get a marriage therapist gift card. All right, now join up with two or three other people, maybe not the people you worked with or the people you did work with, and try to explain this new logo. What's this combo symbol trying to communicate? Is it even possible for those two products to be combined or marketed together successfully? So talk to each other. Y'all talk to other people. Doug, you come talk to the Suttons. Janet, you talk to the Johnsons or somebody. Would this even work? It's the Audi Olympics. All right. Bible soap? What, Charles? Explain your Bible soap. If you're at home, please make sure you're drawing your logo. This is the Audi Olympics. All right. So now anybody have one that's particularly clever or particularly interesting that you'd like to share? What have you got, Charles? Bible soap?
Yeah.
Or what is Bible soap supposed to do?
The cleanse.
Ah, your soul and your body. Now, Charles, I don't know how you take a shower, but I can see some sacrilegious things going on. Okay, so that sounds a little frightening. Anybody else got one that's particularly clever or weird, or your idea was better than your execution?
With the Toyota emblem,
Uh-huh,
put some Mercury wheels on.
okay.
Made Toyota Air.
Toyota Airways, better than Boeing. Okay. All righty, I did draw the Audi Olympics. It's just circles and circles and circles and circles, and I guess you could market those together. Maybe Audi could be like the sponsoring thing, or they could just take off one of the Olympic rings and just go with it. Anybody else have
And-
anything particularly?
And Kristen shared one.
Oh, Pat,
I did shell and apple.
Shell and Apple, okay. All right, so,
Shell.
Thanks, Helene.
Computer technology.
okay, that actually might work. It is, there is. And the reason I was asking you to do this is the logos are symbols. When you see it, you think of not the symbol, but the bigger picture. And symbols are powerful. So what is a way a symbol can be powerful? It's recognizable. Yeah. Why are symbols powerful? Why do we use symbols, and why do they evoke such a strong response in a lot of people?
They tell a lot and it's just one.
Oh,
Mhm.
A lot of one
one small thing.
image.
So it's very compact and condensed. Okay,
Identifies,
okay,
something or a person strongly with a particular concept.
okay. So it's compacted and like you're smushing a lot of information in a tiny spot. So it's like it's gonna explode maybe. Oh, okay, yeah. Otherwise, there's no symbol needed if it's not that important.
I have a question about
Hey.
this. So several things, but one, she said, well, the swastika, that's it. Well, if I had seen the swastika before, nothing, I wouldn't have known even what it was. So for me, it all went on. afterwards that associated with evil and power and corruption.
Mhm.
But at first, what, I don't know how they chose it or why.
We could look it up,
what
but
it means.
when children first started saying the Pledge of Allegiance, which was a pledge written by the manufacturer of the flag company. So the way they saluted was like this. Would you do that now? It's called the Bellamy salute. And this means something else now, not anymore. So these are some common symbols and practices of Christianity, which you are all very familiar with, being all Christian people. But remember, I developed this for groups that weren't necessarily religious. So we got Jesus. That's how he's usually depicted. Long brown, wavy hair, mustache, beard, white, blue eyes, light skin, doing something religious with his hands, wearing whatever you call it, a robe and a piece of extraneous fabric over his shoulder. I'm not sure what that's for, but there you go. Raising hands in worship. Most people, you may not do this, but you're aware that a lot of people do that. Catholics will have their crucifixes with crucified Jesus on them. Protestants prefer the regular cross. There's lots of different styles of crosses, but this is the one you normally see. The Jesus fish, which was probably more popular in the 70s and 80s. Let's see what I got hiding behind there. Oh yeah, kneeling in prayer, a very common posture, just like you would expect a Muslim person to be down on all fours, head on the ground. This would be common for Christians. Bread and wine used in worship. Holy Bible, yeah, that's a good symbol. The Christian flag, and I'm not sure how or when that got developed, but it did not develop in the Jesus era. And the singing in worship, either a cover band type thing or a choir, the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. So we're not really going to discuss what they mean. It's good enough that you are familiar that these are Christian symbols. You already knew that. All right, so let's take a look. We've got some combinations going on. And I'd rather you just look at these first without comment, and then we will come back and see what the people are trying to express by combining these religious symbols, Christian religious symbols, with national symbols, flag, eagles, things of that nature. We're going to also try to think of who are these messages aimed at and what are the goals of these messages. Now, you are not going to like these pictures. As my middle schoolers say, Miss Raybon, this is messed up. You messed up. That's all. Yeah. So let's go back and take a look at some of these. What's the combination and what is the message? What is the message? Who would understand this? And what's the message they're trying to convey? Can y'all see it well enough?
Are they thinking that they're fighting for Jesus?
What it appears to
I mean, it seems
be.
like my sister and my nephew, all of a sudden, they're talking about Jesus and praying, and they never have ever before.
Okay.
Who's God is praying, right?
I think so.
It is why.
Before he's going to storm the Capitol, spread poo in the rotunda. And why do people usually pray? What are you asking for?
What you want?
Well, God is on their side.
As he is in all football games for both teams. Now, this is in the rotunda. Those are not police officers with the military gear on. I don't think so. What's he holding up high?
And the flag.
Somebody else has the flag, but yes, they're both there in the picture together.
I couldn't tell, well, what camps,
You mean to go back?
folks on the right were helmets, was that the police or was that the demonstrators?
As the demonstrators.
I don't know. Well, they've got numbers on their helmets, so they might be police. No, they have different numbers. So I'm not sure if those are actual police or not.
Camp, symbol also.
Mm-hmm. There's an American flag, but it's not. And is this, would this be a Muslim call to prayer? And those gloves mean something. Paul, could you look up skeleton gloves and remind me what it means? And he's hugging his Bible. Face is covered though. He doesn't want to be recognized. He's got glasses and that might be what he's saying. Paul's gonna look up the skeleton hands for me. I just forgot. So what are they combining here too?
Religion and politics.
A lot of people wearing red, white, and blue. And I got the same type of logo for both names. What did they say?
They are really patriotic.
Oh, okay, okay. How did you find the hands thing? Okay. I think it's from a video game. Okay, praying at a big old cross. Carrying a cross with them.
Oh, it's from a video game.
He's got a crucifix. So what are they messaging and who's supposed to come on board with this?
I think it's a video. That's all.
Rejection of them.
You think so? Even though a lot of immigrants are Catholic? And he's almost holding it up like to ward off something, a vampire. This one is just bizarre.
I had to laugh at that. I think that's about the way Jesus will go.
And without the Waldo socks, I'm not sure what that's about. And you can see the flag in the background up here. It's got the blue stripe for the police, but then they go right ahead and bash and injure the police. And fortunately, they all brought their phones.
That's a weak mind.
And on the coin, it's Trump on the coin. And as I said at our first lesson, Trump could evaporate tomorrow and this would still be here. This would all still be here. It's always been with us, which we've learned a lot about. Okay. Okay,
I'm the only one who.
maybe so. And then just something as simple as this. It's a cross done up as an American flag. Is that cool? I mean, you may have worn something like this at one time. I know when we had Bible school, we pledged allegiance to the American flag and the Christian flag and the Bible. And even as a young child, I'm thinking, well, which is it? Make up your feeble mind, high school people. which is it? So when nationalism co-ops starts using the symbols of religion, so I want you to work a few minutes on your own and then we'll turn and share. You're sort of comparing, what are the goals of nationalism? What are the goals of religion? How and why do nationalist movements frequently incorporate religious ideas? And do religious groups incorporate nationalist ideas? How and why does this happen? And in both groups, what happens to the people or groups who do not belong? Can you set your timer for about 4 minutes? Thank you. About 2 minutes left. I thought that was the music out in the gym. $45. Just groove. I think. Three, two, one. Okay. So, goals of nationalism and goals of religion. Did y'all write down something completely different for each of them? Okay, What'd you have?
And I would say control,
oh, okay,
and the religion is love.
okay. Now that would depend on what religion you're involved in and what particular church you go to.
When it comes to religion, religion has one of two goals,
Okay,
and they are not gonna be the same.
okay,
Goal number one, religion does what it's supposed to be doing, is pointing you toward whatever their deity is. They believe in. The other one is to promote and preserve the religion itself.
oh, okay.
The structure, the hierarchy. That's what the Russian Orthodox Church is
Hmm.
doing. Since Russian Revolution.
It's keeping itself together.
Keeping itself in existence.
Okay,
They have to go along.
okay.
So they're not really promoting the point.
And that sort of sounds like nationalism. We're, a nationalist country, a nation wants to keep itself together. When it feels threatened, you batten down the hatches and defend yourself. Any other particular things you wrote down for the goals of nationalism or religion?
Religion has society, setting an example for society,
Okay,
how to live a meaningful life, or
Okay.
how to deal with life in a meaningful way. To me, that's
could a nation do that too?
good.
Okay, it could, it could.
That was one of them.
Hmm.
Okay, to grow itself.
Mhm.
All right, what were you gonna say?
Would nationalism be more like towards loyalty to the nation?
Okay.
Loyalty.
Some loyalty, all right, some belongingness, which also religion does.
Money factors into nationalism.
Money does not factor into the church religion. A little bit. So how would it factor into nationalism? What would money do?
Well, the power comes from wealthy
Hmm.
factors of society. Also, the common man wants to make more money
Mhm.
and have more possessions. The money's important to him.
Especially in capitalistic nations, which we are, which is our churches in any way competitive or capitalistic?
Yeah, I would say it depends on what the actual goal of the church is. For a lot of churches, yes, for a lot of churches.
Yeah, I mean, and especially in America, if you don't like this church, there's another one down the road. We compete with each other. We don't.
Growth also sometimes fueled by a desire to have money.
Mhm.
We might have to close, we don't have enough money, we need more people,
Mhm.
that's how we get more money, we'll be stronger.
And money in many cases in the world today equates power. They are almost one and the same. So there's some differences, but you can kind of see if a person didn't have anywhere to belong and felt powerless, they might turn to religion. They might also turn to some sort of nationalist movement, which I think we've got a lot going on right now, especially since the nuns are the biggest growing religious group. People naturally almost, I think we're hardwired to look for a meaning and a purpose and something bigger than ourselves and beyond ourselves. And if you don't or can't find that in a religious context, it might feel good to be part of that big group of whoever they are storming the Capitol or joining a march or whatever it is. How about incorporating the various ideas? Why would a nationalist movement incorporate a religious idea and vice versa? What's the benefit to the religion or to the nationalist movement?
I want to appeal to more people, so appeal to their religious sense and draw more people.
Okay, this is just like a religion, you can be both, you can do both, okay. And I know Joe said, what did you say last week that was good? And I can't remember it. It was good though. I do remember it was good. I remember what it was good. Now it's just gone. Oh, Joe was talking about how, why wouldn't he be in favor of posting the 10 Commandments in a school? Because he's a Christian. But if he expresses his concern about that, then you're looked at like, well, maybe you're not really a Christian. So that can put people in a difficult place to defend your idea that that's a bad idea. When if you do that, it looks like you're a bad person. Oh, hello. She really misses that landline. She really misses the landline. Okay.
A very strong example
Mm-hmm.
of nationalism and religious ideas is in all countries.
Okay.
Very strong because you are never going to be part of the in-group unless you're one.
Okay.
You're never going to be. You're going to have rights curtailed, limited, law. And once you're in the party, you can't get out. In
Mm.
other words, once you're in the religion, that's it. Choice is made, you can never leave. And so it doesn't necessarily bring the religious ideas in so much as just brings the religion.
Okay.
It makes that.
So they're almost one and the same. I
I
know.
think about a lot of Islamic nations, there'll be some kind of Islamic symbol on the flag.
On the national
Just
flag.
maybe a scimitar or a
Crescent, crescent moon,
usually a crescent
Yeah.
or the color black.
or the color green. And green also is a color favored by Islamic countries, I think.
I think that company as well is that potential every nation faces if it allows these two to be merged together. Like,
Well, they would like to treat the opposite.
Yeah.
But Iran is the only one that really comes close to that. Pakistan would like that. Other the others, constitutional monarchies and all kinds of stuff.
which doesn't stop them from making a lot of it. Yeah, but the point being, if you want an example of what can happen here, is take a look at other places where it's happening.
Mhm. And again, you get sort of two for one. You get to feel like you belong. You're always accepted. You're always on the in group. You're doing the right moral thing by worshiping God the way you're supposed to do it. The Orthodox Church has done the same. You know, we have a large contingent of Slavic people who immigrated here about 20 years ago. Many of them they're all Christians, Orthodox and these folks, but they were not Orthodox, even though they were Christian. And they weren't persecuted like jail and imprisonment and things like that, but passed over for jobs. Basic harassment or basic, you don't fit in, you're not one of us. We don't want to hear from you, your ideas aren't any good. And so they end up, that's why they came in a big reason to the United States. They weren't, being imprisoned or executed, but it made life hard because they weren't the right kind of Christian in Moldova and Ukraine and Russia. So that's why they came.
There's another word I want to talk about. Exclusion,
Mm-hmm.
religious groups, exclude others too. But that's sort of a weird thing because we as Christians are supposed to go out and get people. And does that put us on a bad image at times? If we're kind of.
Well,
feel guilty.
if ultimately we're supposed to gather everyone, then there's no more out group. So is there an in group? Maybe it's like what is it?
Those that are gathering the most.
Yeah, it could be. It's like The Incredibles, when everyone's special, nobody is. Who wants to live in a world like that? I want to live where I'm in the in group. And then the final question is what happens in a nationalistic movement or in a religious movement to the people who don't belong and refuse to join? You're going to try to convert people for a while, but then eventually you just give up. And then what happens? What happens to them?
They become thorns in the flesh.
I guess so. And what do you do with the thorns in the flesh, Joe?
We hope they all get together.
Yeah.
Stay out of the way.
Yeah. It's like the Church of the Grumpy Old Men that I wished existed somewhere. So they could all go and be there together. Oh,
How reduced.
they're less than you.
Less than.
They are less than. They are other. You may have heard the phrase othered or othering. It's a modern phrase, but it's looking at a person who doesn't fit in and saying, you're so far you're just one of those people that's causing problems, or should, you're not really one of us, you're not really an American, you're not really a Christian, you're not really human enough. And you can see the end result of this. I mean, that's what Christians did during the days of slavery. They're not quite human. They don't feel pain. It's okay. They don't feel pain like we do. They don't have the same feeling, not quite human like we are. And so that's often what happens, and that's one of the steps it takes. And then the next thing you know, you got people in internment camps or wherever.
Do the people who consider themselves 100% Christian nationalists see God and country as equal in importance?
Maybe, but they also see it as they're very much sometimes one and the same. By being a good American, you are being a good Christian. The only way to be a good Christian is to be a good American. Those two things get tied so tightly together, they can't get separated in their minds or in reality. Any more comments or ideas on this?
Really, that's the whole party. I mean, isn't it?
Okay, a political party can definitely play a part in it. I mean, I don't know, in the Muslim countries, what is it, a one-party rule, basically?
But you usually have one that identifies itself as this of the Muslim.
We're the best Muslim political party. If you were gonna,
Muslims too, but they don't push themselves too hard.
Well, they have socialism, communism, even they're Muslim and communism and Muslim, but they have communism.
That's interesting.
So I like that identity of we're the best representation of what it means to be an Egyptian and a Muslim. And I think that's probably the same thing that we're seeing here is they project themselves as this is we're the best way to be a Christian and an American. And some would even say we're the only way to be both a Christian and an American.
Well, that's an easy step to take.
Yeah.
If we're the best, why wouldn't you want to join us? Why would you want to bother with all these?
Good modern example of how that can be seen. In Yemen right now, they're having a civil war of a certain degree. The group that is pushing hardest to take controlled the whole country up until 1962. And then when they were ejected and a republic, so to speak, came into play. Now they're back, they're trying to take a look. These are a specific type of Muslim. They say, well, they're backed by the Iranians, but they're all Shiites. Well, they're not really Shiites in the fullest sense. They're a different group. But they're still a separate group from the rest of the Muslims there, and they intend to control the country like before. So this is to go along with everything you're saying. The point being that a religious group identifies itself more as the proper leadership of the country, and all of the others, even though there are technically the same religion, are basically pushed aside. And you could join the group. You could convert and say, yeah, I'm going to say Muslim instead of just a Shia. You can do that. But there's also Sunnis down there, and they are pushing aside. Definitely pushing aside. They're always at odds.
Okay. Next slide. What's the harm? What's the harm in having Bible school and getting kids to pledge allegiance to the Christian flag and the American flag and the Bible at your little 3-hour thing at church? What's the consequences for individuals? Right here. Both those who are part of both of the nation and the religion and those who are not. We looked at that identity exercise at the beginning, and for most of us, we'd probably be all right. We could fake it till we make it, unless they start looking at the voter registration rolls, which are publicly available. What are consequences for individual, like Christians who are Americans? And would you always be assumed to be supportive of the Ten Commandments in the school. I mean, people would look at you and say, oh, they're Baptist. They probably are in favor of it. We found out at First Baptist that the church across the street thought we were Southern Baptist, fundamentalists screaming hellfire and brimstone, and hating all the gay people over at First Baptist.
Me about us being Baptist. That's such a bad reputation, especially after the convention.
And we shouldn't. We were the leaders. We were the leaders in combating this early on. But yeah,
I guess, and this may be not the time to ask this, but what I wonder about sometimes is people that I know personally who have lived a very strong Christian life. And I'm thinking of this one lady who, she gave her whole life to starting Christian orphanages in South America, Colombia. Her beliefs were so strong, but, so this may be not the time to ask this, but evidently she thought Donald Trump could do no wrong. And there are things in this life that are black and white, right or wrong, and I'm not talking about more, I guess, moral beliefs. And is there any religion that believes lying is okay? Is there any Christian, or not Christian, but any religion that believes that certain things are murder and whatever, abuse, child abuse, that'll be okay?
I don't know if there would be a religion, but there's definitely cultural traits where that's okay. I think of a lot of Asian cultures where the idea is you don't want to be embarrassed or admit wrong. So they do a lot of workarounds, so you never have to do that, which I guess from an American point of view, we call it lying. I've had exchange students get in trouble because they would not be honest. They wouldn't admit to eating the last cookie. I actually had a student lose his placement because he wouldn't admit to eating the last cookie. And the American host mom was like, I just want him to admit he did it. He ain't never gonna do that because that'd be too embarrassing. So, but it's not the religious aspect of the culture.
Are there things black and white, right or wrong?
Religious people would say generally yes. You say murder's wrong, but then we've got the biggest military in the United States or in the world. Where do you draw the line? Executing criminals? Is that okay? Not okay. It's, terminally ill there's, euthanasia, abortion, capital punishment, warfare. There's the fifth one that's a life and death issue. And most places come down, 2 or 3 of them are okay and the other 2 or 3 are not. But as far as what to do with people like that, we're going to try to get on that next week, okay, with some responses.
I didn't know if that was the time to ask.
No, yeah.
I think that's something we all struggle with. People that we know that seem to have such a, in this case, Christian heart. But it could be any strong belief system.
And a lot of it is, comes back to whose authority, the voice are they listening to? That persuades a lot. It's
When
not.
I met this particular lady, she was elderly and she has since passed away. And she was very intelligent, but she gave her whole life to what she thought was making that situation better. In the name of Jesus Christ in her situation. And I just don't understand.
What was the thing? Cyrus? Who was Trump
the
been
theory-
equated with?
There is a rationale that Christian nationalists are using, that they say that in our case, Trump is playing the role of King Cyrus of Persia, and God is using him as a tool to accomplish God's ends. And that's how they justify it, that they can accept Trump because God is using him, no matter how bad he is, no matter how evil he is, because King Cyrus was not a good person. Okay.
I got some questions.
Oh, I got a lot of questions, but that is, because I've been trying to figure out, that's the thing that I wrestle with is how in the world can you justify ignoring these issues for whatever reason? And that is their argument, that
I thought that was a bulwark of the founding of the country and Baptists have lost it.
yeah,
So what they're doing is inflating it all
Mhm.
back again. Are we through, like, what's her name, Lauren Bower said, I'm tired of this separation of church and state junk.
yeah,
Is that him going? Is that going?
That is the
That is what they
plan,
would
that
like.
is the goal.
that is the goal.
Because you can't, if you have it separated, then you have to have room for all those other people to have full citizenship rights. For, Muslims to be able to vote, Jews to be able to hold public office, and atheists to run for city council. So that's not a good way to run it in their minds. Because then the out group people don't stay out. The only people allowed to have power are the in group.
That's the Seven Mountain Mandate.
Yeah,
It's one of those,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And the traditional Baptist view was the ones who were involved at the beginning of Baptist life said, it's not the government's business to tell you whether you're a Christian, a Muslim, or
what
don't
to
believe
believe or
anything.
not believe.
One of them said it doesn't matter if he believes in one God, two gods, or 20 gods. It's none of the king's business. And that was a Baptist principle. That's, the
Because
government
we've
has
been
no,
put in
and
jail.
they would say that the flip flop is that we don't have any business telling the government what kind of government should be. It shouldn't be a Christian government. But if you want control, and if you want to preserve your way of life, however you see that, well, then you have to do away with that because
It won't work.
It won't work. Because like the argument about the Ten Commandments, well, that's a nice idea. Can we put up the Wiccan commandments too?
Nope.
Well, so the only way you can do that is you can say it has to be a Christian thing, and it can't be uh, uh, a out of many one or a pluralistic society. And we got away with it for hundreds of years because, well, most everybody was Baptist or Methodist, and you could all rub shoulders, and it didn't rub shoulders. Well, we have a lot of different people from a lot of different views, and you can't assume that everybody has the same understanding.
It started out, um, with no prayer in public school, and I guess no Bible reading.
No teacher-led prayer.
Okay. But then it's evolved to, you can't say we're getting out for the Christmas break. We're getting out for the winter holiday break.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got, it's grown and grown and grown. And things like.
And that's what people have felt the pressure of, that they don't feel comfortable with that.
And it makes them feel threatened.
Because we can't call it Christmas break. But like Kate lives in New York City, they all get off for Yom Kippur
And a lot of other.
and a lot of other holidays.
I will move to New York.
They all get off.
Yeah,
It's a city,
just like
it's a city holiday.
So it's what's culturally norm in that area, and we assume that that's the way it is and the way it always should be. I remember when I first heard that people up north got Columbus Day off.
And Memorial Day.
Did y'all ever get
I
Columbus
didn't get
Day?
Memorial Day off.
Or up north, that's a major Catholic holiday. And so everybody gets Columbus Day off. That's when you have your Italian parade, the Columbus Day parade and all that. It's a big Italian Catholic cultural thing. Catholic Italian, kind of mixed there.
And the Knights of Columbus pushed for that.
And the Knights of
That's their
Columbus runs.
youth group.
Well, we never had Columbus Day off, and we didn't have Memorial Day off because they weren't going to get Confederate Memorial Day off, so they weren't going to do. They weren't going to do that.
I never had Memorial Day off, not in Georgia.
So what you think is normal, and everybody does, and you think everybody ought to have, is very different depending on where you live. And now that's people have moved, and we have different groups of people everywhere, and to be considered of everybody, it's complicated.
Yeah, whenever I talk about Jesus in history teaching, I always say like Jesus, the central figure of Christianity. I just pretend nobody has ever heard of Jesus. Because I'm not trying to say, oh, y'all all know the guy Jesus, right? Well, no, not all of them do. Some of them are Muslims, some of them are the nuns, some of them don't want to know. We need to wrap up here. So I've got now, if you know the person you're going to be looking at, please don't say their name, and you don't get to participate if you know this person. Okay, if you don't know this person, you get to participate. So how would you describe this guy? He's in a wrestling ring. It's wrestling, not wrestling. Wearing red, big bulked out dude, very manly. If that's your kind of man. Jock. Is he pretty smart, open-minded, closed-minded? USME or U3ME, I can't tell. So, kind of a jockish kind of celebrity dude. I think you know who he is. Well, here's a recent, oh, where'd it go? My link. My link is not linking. Let's see what he has to say. Oh, they were getting closer.
Constitution is 12 years.
This is telling me is there are enough people worried that they're making commercials like this with very famous people. The 2025 project is getting major media play on almost all media channels. If you're not familiar with it, you need to familiarize yourself with it. It's the plan. It's the plan. I think did the Republican Party adopt it as their platform? It's not adopted as the platform, but that's the plan for all of us, whether we want to be in the plan or not. You also need to familiarize yourself with something called dominionism and the 7 mountains of dominionism. That's the theological underpinnings of all of this. Now, your average Capitol rioter putting poop on the rotunda, they don't know that. But that's the underpinning. That's where the Cyrus idea comes from. You don't need to have a moral person as long as you get to the ends that you want. The ends justify the means. First Baptist is hosting a speaker from the North Carolina Council of Churches on September 29th, 27th, sometime in September, to come and talk more about dominionism and the 7 mountains, the theological underpinnings for all of this. And you can read the 2025 project on your own. It's easy to find online. It happened after I'd created this lesson, so I wasn't able to incorporate it. But it's the plan. It's out there, and that's the plan. If all comes to fruition.
Someone called me today and said, I want to ask you something. My best friend was in Ohio, and she called her today. She told her that all the churches up there are supporting Project 2025. And if your church doesn't, then you're not true Christian.
You're not true Christians. There you go. That's what we talked about.
We always feeling about that. No, that's
Beep.
She said, well, they just all love Trump up there. And I said, well, yeah, that's that. But I don't understand the thing about Cyrus. When they talk about King Cyrus.
Are you familiar with the Bible story about him?
No.
You want to fill in real quick?
Digest version, Kings, I can't remember how far along in the story it is, which books it is, but he was the king of Persia, and after they conquered the Babylonians, the Persians conquered the Babylonians, then they restored Israel and let them go back home and build the temple, gave them some money to build the temple again. Nehemiah, I have to think which story it is. Yeah. And so even though Cyrus was not a Jewish person, was not a religious person,
But not a good person.
not necessarily a good person, God accomplished his purposes through Cyrus.
That's what these idiots think.
Trump is. That's their rationale. Pretty weak.
And if it wasn't Trump, it would be Ron DeSantis or someone else.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's Trump.
He was viewed as a Messiah.
Yeah, they even saw him. He was a Messiah. That's one of the interpretations.
God's anointed one.
Yeah.
Anything about this project 2025.
Well, he can read it too. It's all out there. Okay. So next week, what the heck are we gonna do? So, it's out there. What can be our response? How can we work with people who their whole lives did beautiful, wonderful things, and at the end or at some point to us went off the rails? How do we talk with them? We've all got relatives in that position. I don't think I've talked about anything but the weather and the kids for probably 2 decades with my siblings, or some of my siblings. It's very frustrating. It does. It does.
You wonder what motivates people to go down that path. What's the motivation? Is it because they feel bad about themselves? Is there somebody standing up for me, or?
I think it goes back to this in-group and out-group. Who wants to be out? I mean, who wants to be rejected?
And so many people, like my sister, her husband's religious people you'll ever meet, they don't go to church anywhere. They don't go on a regular basis.
That's another,
Yeah.
But
That-
yet,
this is substituting for that. The nationalism and religion, they offer some of the same benefits, feeling of belonging, an in-group that has some power, an out-group who can be ignored or despised or murdered, depending how far you want to take it. Both nationalism and religions provide a lot of the same things. And if your church has combined, well, then you're getting both at once. Otherwise, if you're not a church person, this is sort of like what do you call it? Not alternative, adjacent, a religion adjacent movement, and a religion adjacent feeling, and a religion adjacent group you can belong to.
We were watching a video, and I don't remember where it came from. It was a rally. It was a political rally for men, I think. It was a political rally. And they had set up portable tubs in the front, and they were baptizing people, not into the church, just baptizing people coming forward and feeling like they needed to be baptized. And
Because that's
they
what
did.
you do when you
Because
feel
that's what you do when you get filled with the
whatever.
whatever. And it was
What were you
freaky.
watching? I didn't watch this. What were you watching?
I think it was the one about the tractors.
What?
Oh, gosh. There's this other.
Tractors.
The one where they had the men's conference and it was a tractor pull and they had the guns. Oh,
Maybe you watch. I
okay.
don't watch things like that.
Anyway, it was like this men's rally, right?
Manly things.
Mainly thing. They had magicians and they had tractors and guns, and then they had these pools where they were baptizing people. There was no word about this was baptizing in faith in Jesus Christ or anything. It was just they were caught up in the moment, and they knew that baptism was something that you did when you got caught up in the moment and wanted to respond and commit and change your life.
For membership?
I'm still not quite sure what it was. Just kind of a response to all this that was going
They
on.
felt like it was.
It was
God
a spiritual
speaking,
moment for them.
but it was not a spiritual moment from God. It was
I
a
would-
spiritual moment from John Deere.
Whatever.
Belonging.
A sense of belonging. Yeah.
And they want to demonstrate their belonging.
Are they speaking out against this? If they complain.
Oh, no. It's caught up in the middle of it.
He's in this.
He is big time in the middle of this.
yes, to something, something.
Or he was going to.
What do you mean he took his dad? His dad's dead.
A while back.
Oh,
While back.
like Lennon in the tomb.
Any pastors of stature of the one speaking against it.
Tony Campolo, people like that. But people,
Nobody listens to Tony Campbell.
the Christian Century magazine, which is fairly conservative, has come out against, well, they came out against Trump. Just saying that for their editorial was, we cannot equate this personal morality with the things that we believe, and they got slammed.
What about something like the seminaries, professors?
Not in the public.
Mm-mm.
Al Mohler, the president of Southern Seminary, is one of the leading proponents
Of the dominionism.
of communism.
Administrations.
It's about power.
It's power.
I have a theory.
Uh-oh. Is it about the dinosaur bones in the dirt?
United States political arena, what big group of people could you tap into
Mm-hmm,
that could give you a boost?
mm-hmm.
If 70% of the American people say they're Christian,
There you go.
how's it?
And I've,
Find a way to.
ever since I was a kid, I wondered, what the heck do the Southern Baptists want with this fundamentalist movement? Well, now I know. It's to take over the court, take over the legislature, to take over the executive branch, and then you've got it. Because I never could figure out why on earth would this. Mm-hmm,
Is a part of this.
mm-hmm.
Although those people, even those people who began that, well, some of them would be horrified by this.
They would denounce it by this time.
Because they were Baptists. I mean, they were very conservative, but they were definitely Baptist. The folks that are now in this movement, they don't hold to any of those Baptist ones. I don't. They said it's something else is more important.
So are we in the middle of a cultism?
Sounds like it to me. That's part of how I've come to think of dealing with my relatives that are deep into this is he's in a cult. How would I treat somebody who was a Hare Krishna or a Mooney or a Jim Jones person? How would I try to keep the lines of communication open? How would I not confront? How would I treat this person if I knew they were in a cult? And that's kind of what I've been talking about the weather and the kids with. Trying to not piss them off so that whenever they change their minds, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if their kids become concerned with,
We talk about cult like the Jim Jones family or the Fresh family.
Do you think it's that?
I mean,
as it is, there's,
different.
well, they're not all living on a compound because there's too many of
It's
them.
not centralized.
It's not centralized like that. But the patterns of thinking to me are similar.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. And a lot of churches, they're supportive of mindlessness. They don't want your kids to don't go to college. You'll be a liberal. Don't read that book. Don't watch that movie. Don't listen to that song. Don't go to regular school. Don't be friends with those people. You might not stay who you are. You might just change your mind. And a lot of churches over the years have been very anti, just stay insulated. Christian music, Christian school, Christian family, Christian, I think about the Duggars. You're only going to date somebody from the homeschool milieu and marry one of them and make a whole bunch more babies. And they're a whole different cultish kind of thing called quiverful. But, yeah, your goal is to make more Christians by literally making more Christians. Have as many kids as you can and raise them right so they will remain Christian, other than that one that's in prison. Yeah, let's not forget about him.
Yeah. That's all.
And the 2 or 3 who no longer speak into their parents.
So can we come to the thing in September?
Yes, I want everybody, yes, I'll make sure you know about it and start letting other members of churches and probably all of the mainline churches, Presbyterians, Lutherans, Episcopals. There's usually a fundamentalist branch like PCA, that's Presbyterian Church in America. that is not your run-of-the-mill Presbyterians. They're very conservative. But the big main ones are not gonna be doing this, but they've been looked down upon by evangelicals for years. They're not really Christians, baptized babies and whatnot. So it'll be exciting.
You know, funny story. A few years ago, I was coming home and I was on Bavard Road, and everybody knows that business. That's, well, they were selling Trump merchandise, and I wanted to talk to them. I did.
She lived to tell the tale.
Well, we will get shot, and that's okay. Y'all just know that I love daisies. Okay? I'm okay. I'm saved, I'm ready. But I asked them, I said, there was a guy there that was running for office in Henderson County for a sheriff. And I said, why? Why do you support Trump? I said, you know everything he's done. It's out there. Why do you still support him? And he said, it's not what he does while he's president. It's what he does. You know, it doesn't affect him what he does outside of the political office.
Mhm.
And I said, and we talked a bit further. There was a group of them, and they were all elderly. And we talked a little bit, and that guy from Henderson County that was running for sheriff or something, he said, well, you know, I am a part-time pastor. And I said, you have a good day.
Well, the other thing I've thought of, this is just something I thought of, I haven't tried it out. But try to point out, like, I don't see a lot of you in Trump or a lot of Trump in you. You're kind. You love your children. You know, you go to church and see where that takes you. That's my only other option.
He's taking advantage of these people that are so out of touch with everything else, or so needy, or it's like he's become their
savior. Mhm.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
And no matter how disgusting he is, it's okay. I can't get over that.
A lot of hurting people who feel like the world that they knew is gone.
Yeah.
Has been taken from them.
And the world they knew was the good world. That was the way it should be.
And they want it back.
They want it back.
Young people are in that category.
And young people are in the nuns and joining more.
There are
a
some
few.
cultural, the folks that are into the cultural, God bless USA.
And they're young.
Yeah, yeah.
They're young
I know some of them.
and rural.
Rural kids. The same kids that used to flag with Confederate flags on their pickups now put American flags on their pickups. It's just.
And Will, who's our son Will, who's a youth, and if you gotta go, go.
You're wearing a flag.
Yeah, and it's hard because I want to be a patriotic American and the flag is part of that.
I love the flag, but
No, you might get lumped in, but
I just can't.
my son took his youth group to a mission trip to Washington DC, and they went to the Baptist Joint Committee offices and had a speech or whatever. And one of his kids just wouldn't have any of it. He did not see any harm at all in posting the 10 Commandments or saying a prayer, or the coach that was leading the foot prayers.
He could not fathom.
He could not wrap his head around that.
All the kids say prayer.
No, they weren't making them. It was voluntary,
Yeah.
but only if you want to play in the game.
But I'll get it when I play the game.
Right. So anyway, what were you gonna say, Jeff?
Even
Oh, yeah. Let's, yes.
fearful of them.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe if you love one of them, maybe they would speak a lot. I'm not sure. Well, if you don't love them.
It's over. You're never gonna get
Well,
them.
like we were talking in Bible study, Jesus didn't give us a choice. He didn't say, love your enemies until they come around. He didn't say, love your enemies until they agree with you. He just said, love everybody.
From afar.
Keep on.
There may be some reasons for that.
One of them, but
Yeah.
I can keep all of them.
Far from.
What's that on? Yeah, that's on Fiddler on the Roof.
That's a good benediction.
All right. Thank you all. One more session
See y'all next.
and we'll share the slide deck and everything. Take your notes with you so you'll have